car. She sat up and was sick between her legs. Then she felt better. She got up and walked away. She knew who the bomb had been for. Her. And she knew why. She had to hide. They were hunting her. Were they behind her even now? She wandered deep into the French Quarter, found a cheap hotel, and paid for a room with her card. As soon as she was in the room, she locked the door and curled up on the bed with all the lights on. Mrs. Verheek answered the bedside phone. "It's for you, Gavin," she called into the bathroom, where he was shaving. He came and took the phone from her.
"Hello?"
he said angrily. Who could be calling this early in the morning? "Mrs. Darby Shaw. Do you know the name?"
"Yes, we share a friend."
"Did you read the little theory I wrote?"
"Yes, the Pelican Brief, as we call it."
"And who is we?"
How bad can a little
Verheek sat up straight. She was not calling for a friendly chat.
"Why are you calling, Darby?"
"I need some answers, Mr. Verheek. I'm frightened to death."
"It's Gavin, okay?"
"Okay, Gavin. Where's the brief?"
"Why? What's wrong?"
"I'll tell you in a minute. Just tell me what you did with the brief."
"Well, I read it, and then I passed it on to someone else, who passed it on to Denton Voiles, who liked it."
"Has anyone outside the FBI seen it?"
"I can't answer that."
"Then I won't tell you what's happened to Thomas."
"All right, yes, it's been outside the FBI, but I don't know exactly where, and I don't know how many people have read it."
"He's dead, Gavin. He was murdered last night. Someone put a bomb in the car. I was lucky." Gavin was shocked.
"Where are you? Are you safe?"
"New Orleans. Who knows if I'm safe? They must be after me, too. It was me they really wanted."
"I'll have some men come and get you, Darby. You can't stay on the streets. Then I'll catch a plane and I'll be there by midday."
"I don't think so. Thomas is dead because he talked to you. Why should I want to talk to you? Give me your number at work. I may call you later."
"Okay, but Darby, just tell me, did he feel any pain?"
There were tears in her voice. "No, it was very quick." Then she put the phone down. She could let herself cry now, because there wouldn't be time later. Crying could get her killed. Chapter 7. Keep Moving. It was nearly time for the President's daily meeting with Voiles. By now he was tired of the whole business. He just wanted to get his men into the Supreme Court. Cole was telling him something, but he wasn't really listening. Voiles and Cole hated each other so much now that Cole had to leave the office whenever Voiles came. They had nearly fought last time. It didn't matter to Cole whether he was in or out of the office. There were enough hidden microphones and cameras for him to listen and watch any conversation there. The President felt better knowing that Cole was at least watching. He greeted Voiles warmly at the door and led him over to the sofa for a friendly chat. Voiles was not impressed.
"Denton,"
the President said.
"I want to apologize for Cole's behavior last time." "He can be stupid, can't he?" Voiles said, knowing that Cole was listening. "Yes, he's very clever and works amazingly hard, but he goes too far sometimes. Anyway, that's all behind us now. I want you to tell me all about this Pelican Brief. How seriously are you taking it?"
Voiles tried not to smile. This was great. He had managed to get Cole and the President worried. "We are investigating all suspects, Mr. President," he replied. "We have 14 men on this one.
I don't have to tell you, Denton, the President continued, how much damage this theory could do if the press heard about it. We won't tell the press, Mr. President. I know. All I'm saying is that I want you to pull back from this one. The theory is crazy anyway, and I could really get hurt. Do you understand what I'm saying? Are you asking me not to investigate a suspect, Mr. President? I'm just saying that you must have better things to do with your men. The press is watching this investigation closely. You know how they are. They don't like me at all. So why don't you leave this one alone and chase the real suspects? Is that what you're asking me to do? I'm not asking you, Denton. I'm telling you to leave it alone for a couple of weeks. If you need to go back to it later, of course you must. But I'm still the boss around here. Remember?
Gavin stayed near Voiles' office until the secretary let him in. He couldn't believe it when Voiles and Lewis told him that they were no longer investigating the Pelican theory.
My best friend is dead because of that brief, he said. He was killed by a car bomb. Someone is worried about the brief, don't you think?
The brief has already been very valuable to us, Gavin, Lewis said.
Yeah, it lets you play some games with the White House, Gavin said bitterly. But there's a girl out there running for her life. What am I going to tell her?
Darby made sure she could not be followed in the crowds in the shopping district. She bought some new clothes and hid her hair under a hat. She went into the Sheraton Hotel and found a row of payphones. First, she called Mrs. Chen, who lived in the apartment next to hers. No, she had not seen anything. Yes, there had been a knock at her door early this morning.
You are not allowed to call me that.
Then she called Gavin.
Where are you?
He asked. Let me explain something. For now, I'm not going to tell you or anyone else where I am. Clear?
Yes, but don't go home.
I'm not a fool. They've already been there. What did Mr. Voiles say?
I haven't been able to see him.
You've been at the office for 4 hours, Gavin. I expected you to do better.
Be patient, Darby.
Patience will get me killed. I've got to keep moving. She saw a face. He walked among the tourists at the hotel's front desk. He was trying to look as though he belonged here, but his eyes were searching. The face was long and thin, and he wore round glasses. He was a little over 6 feet tall. Gavin, listen to me, she said. I have to go. I can see a man I've seen before, about an hour ago.
Okay. Take care, Darby. And call me again soon.
I'll try. Chapter 8. Photos and Phone Calls. The photographer's name was Croft. He was parked on Pennsylvania Avenue in Grantham's Volvo because it had a phone.
You are not allowed.
The payphone was easy to see, about 50 yards in front of the car. With his powerful camera, he could almost read the names in the phone book. A large woman was using the phone at the moment. At 12:20, the woman put the phone down and walked away. From nowhere, a young man in a suit appeared and walked over to the phone. Croft felt sure that this was the man. He picked up his camera and looked through it. The man was pushing numbers on the phone and looked nervous. He kept looking this way and that. Croft took a couple of pictures. The phone in the car went 3 times. Croft didn't pick it up. It was Grantham at the office, signalling that this was their man. Croft used a whole film on the first camera.
In the face of danger.
When the man had finished talking on the phone, he walked straight towards the Volvo along the pavement. Beautiful. Croft took several more pictures with a second camera, and stopped well before the man could possibly see inside the car. An easy job. Grantham got plenty of excellent pictures from Croft. Garcia didn't look Spanish, despite the name he had chosen. He looked like thousands of other young lawyers up and down the country. From Garcia, he got nothing. It didn't matter. He let him talk about his wife and child and how frightened he was. One day, and one day soon, Garcia would give him the information, whatever it was. From Sarge, he got a copy of a White House document naming Carmel as the probable killer of Rosenberg and Jensen. This was good. There was little in the office files about Carmel, and only 2 pictures, which looked like 2 different people. But he wrote it up into a story, and they decided to use both pictures in the story on the front page the next day. The phone was going. After 24 hours on the run, she had drunk a bottle of wine the night before and fallen asleep on her bed in the Marriott Hotel. But first, she had cut off her long red hair and coloured it black. They would be expecting blonde. They would also be expecting her to run away, so despite her fears, she stayed in New Orleans. They would be watching all the police stations, so she had stayed away from them. The phone was still going. She picked it up and heard,
Darby? This is Gavin.
Now she was awake. How did you find me?
We are the FBI. We have our ways.
Wait, let me think. Of course! You can trace me when I use my cards to pay for things. How stupid of me! But if you can find me, they can find me too. They could be outside the door now.
Stay in small hotels then, and pay with cash. Now, listen. I'm coming to New Orleans. It's Thomas's funeral tomorrow. I think we should meet tonight. You have to trust me, Darby.
What did Voiles say? Gavin hesitated.
We're taking no action at this time.
That's lawyer talk, Gavin. What does it mean?
I don't want to talk on the phone. That's why we have to meet.
No. Tell me why Voiles is doing nothing about this.
I'm not sure why. Honestly.
What do you think, Gavin? Do you think Thomas was killed because of the brief?
Yes.
Thanks. If Thomas was murdered because of the brief, then we know who killed him. And if we know who killed Thomas, then we know who killed Rosenberg and Jensen. Am I right?
Probably.
That's good enough. Probably means yes when a lawyer says it. But the FBI is still doing nothing about my suspect.
Calm down, Darby. Let's meet tonight and talk about this. I could save your life.
She carefully put the receiver of the phone under the pillow. She threw her things into a bag and left the room. She walked up 2 floors to the 17th, then took the lift down to the 10th. Then she walked down the stairs to the ground floor. She hid in the women's room for half an hour, and then left the hotel. On Dumaine Street in the French Quarter, she found an empty cafe with a phone at the back. She called Verheek. "Where will you stay tonight?" she asked him.
At the Hilton.
"I'll call late tonight or early in the morning."
Can you get the Washington Post down there? You should read it today.
"I can't wait. I'll speak to you later." She bought a Post and read it at another cafe. If the report was right, it fitted in with her theory. The local paper had a picture of Thomas on the second page, with a long story about the explosion. The police were looking for a white female whom several witnesses had seen there at the time. She looked slowly at the photo of Thomas. He was so handsome. Tears filled her eyes. Alice Stark, Darby's best friend, got the key to the apartment from Mrs. Chen and let herself in. She had been there plenty of times before, and everything looked all right. Nothing was out of place. The whole apartment was tidy. The kitchen smelled of stale food. It was dark when she got there, but Darby had told her not to switch on the lights, and certainly not to open the curtains. She used a torch to see her way around. She sat down at the computer and turned it on. She looked for the files Darby had mentioned, but they weren't there. By the light of the torch, she looked in the boxes of diskettes. They were empty. Alice returned the key to Mrs. Chen and walked half a mile to where she had left her car. She met Darby as arranged in the restaurant, and she told her what she had discovered. Darby did not seem surprised, and refused to answer Alice's questions. Vahik was angry. She had said she would call him. Now it was midnight and she still hadn't called. He could save her life if she called. He had to do something. He decided to visit a few student bars to find out if anyone knew her and had seen her recently. He got back to his room at 3 in the morning. There were no messages. She hadn't called. Was she still alive? Chapter 9. Searching for Darby. Another phone call from Garcia. The man still wouldn't talk. Why was he calling him before dawn on a Saturday? They'd had the same conversation every time, that he had to think about the safety of his wife and child, that he had seen something in his office, but there was never anything new. Grantham had just gone back to sleep when the phone went again. Hello? It was not Garcia this time. It was a female voice. Is this Gray Grantham of the Washington Post? He must get an unlisted telephone number.
It is. And who are you?
Are you still in the story about Rosenberg and Jensen?
Yes.
Have you heard of the Pelican Brief?
The Pelican Brief. No. What is it?
It contains a theory about who killed the judges. It was given to the FBI last Monday by a man called Thomas Callahan. Suddenly, on Wednesday, Callahan is killed by a car bomb.
How do you know all this?
I wrote the brief. He was wide awake now, listening hard.
Where are you?
New Orleans.
Are you in danger?
I think so. But I'm okay for now. I'll call you again soon. See if you can find out anything about the brief. She came early to Thomas's funeral, and she would stay late. She found an empty room on the 3rd floor of a student building that looked out over the university church. She sat with her face to the window and saw his parents and brother arrive. Students and staff came in 2s and 3s. She pressed a handkerchief to her eyes. Then she saw him. It was the thin-faced man with glasses. He was wearing a coat and tie. He walked towards the church, looking carefully in every direction. First they kill him, then they come to his funeral. 10 minutes later, he came back out of the church. He looked sad, as if Thomas had been a friend. He put a cigarette in his mouth and walked past some parked cars and behind the church. 2 minutes later, another man got out of one of the cars and followed him. The two of them reappeared after a minute, walking together now. Then Thin-Face disappeared down the street while the other man, who was short, returned to his car and waited for the funeral service to finish. The Cubans lowered the small rubber boat into the water from their ship. They heard the sound of the little engine as the man went west through the darkness towards the coast. He would never use a commercial airline again. The photographs in Paris were embarrassing for a professional like himself, and his client was not pleased. Now he was going to have to do 2 jobs in a single month, which he had never done before. But this one would be easy. Just a young woman. In the hotel room in New Orleans, he spoke on the phone to a man calling himself Mr. Sneller.
Tell me about her,
He said.
There are 2 photos in the briefcase.
Kamel opened the case and took out the photos.
I've got them. She's beautiful. It will almost be a pity to kill her. Yes, but all that red hair is gone. We found some hair on the floor of a hotel room. She's coloured it black. Where is she now? We don't know. She has stopped using her cards to pay for things. She took out a lot of money from her bank, and since then she has disappeared. We think she's still in New Orleans, though. Someone was in her apartment last night. We just missed them. The bomb failed. We don't expect you to fail.
Gavin was tired. He had spent 2 nights searching the bars, and he was too old for these late nights. When the phone went, he was still asleep. Gavin?
Darby, is that you?
Yes.
Why haven't you called before?
That doesn't matter now. You should know that they're here in New Orleans. I've seen 2 of them. A thin-faced man and a short man. They were at the funeral service yesterday.
Where were you?
Watching. How long will you be in town?
Until we meet. When will that be?
I don't know yet. I'll call again soon. The phone went dead. Gavin picked it up and threw it across his hotel room. Chapter 10. Another Body. The first thing she did when she woke up on Sunday morning was listen. Was the door opening? Was the floor outside making a noise? When she was sure she was safe, she thought about Thomas. She remembered their times together. She remembered how he loved her. It was a surprise for him, the first time he had really been in love. And she loved him too. After a few minutes of thinking about Thomas, she thought about them. She had to think like them too, to stay alive. Where would they be today? Where could she go? Was it time to move hotels again? Yes. Did they know that she was now a blonde? She felt hungry. She had hardly eaten for days. This hotel didn't do breakfast on Sundays, so she had to go out. She left by the back door through the kitchen. He saw her when she reached Burgundy Street. The hair was different, but she couldn't change her long legs. He started to follow her. Carmel was practicing his English when the phone went. It was Sneller.
She's here,
he said.
One of our men saw her this morning. He chased her, but she noticed him and lost him in the football crowds.
Carmel said,
So how am I supposed to find her? If your men can't tell me where she's staying. It might not matter,
Sneller said.
There's an FBI lawyer in town. The fool has been visiting bars and asking questions about her, spreading his name around. He's asked anyone who knows her to contact him at his hotel.